loves somebody to some degree. Hey, misery loves company. Everybody loves somebody to some degree. Hey, misery loves company. Everybody loves somebody to some degree. Yeah. Going down again, Kid Rock crowd again, limited supply through the battery, the power some speakers pumping loud, got the beat coming out, gonna combine it with my lines. I kinda like the sound of it, a plug need a round of it, lyrics by the pound and shit, dropping like a cloud now, watching people drown in it. How could this never exist till I founded it, came around with it, everybody wanna be down with it. I sound as if I think it deserves a clown and shit, just the way they clown with it, I don't fuck around with it. Style's powerful, you wish you had an ounce of it. You can try to sound like this, but everybody loves somebody to some degree. Hey, Mr. B loves company. I said everybody loves somebody to some degree. Mr. B loves company. Hey, I just made that up on the spot. That's not a real hook. Don't steal it. Every guy does say to some degree. So yo, back, the verse about me or not. When I wrote the shit, I didn't think about her a lot. If I'm allowed to be honest, it's not about her, I promise. It's about any man that falls in love with a woman. Bunch of X's and O's, which O's to your ex. You leave him alone and get stuck with interest. And that's the verse that I wrote, but now I'm about to switch it. Coming off the top, kicking out with something different. Shout out to the people in the front row. Wait a minute, where the fuck did everybody go? Okay, I see it, I don't consider it whack. But why does everybody always go to the back? My name's Back. Hi, yo, that could be my nombre. Watch me serve it up like an entree. Watch me take it to 3,000 like I was Andre. Or maybe I'm childish and I'm on my 3005 shit. Back to Wordsworth, check what the vibe is. Matter of fact, this is off the top, I didn't write this. I grab a microphone till I can't because of arthritis. I stay up night writing like this, I don't know, whatever. Like I'm pulling all-nighters because everybody loves somebody to some degree. Hey, misery loves company. Everybody loves somebody to some degree. Whoa, even misery loves company. Everybody loves somebody to some degree. Say welcome to the poet. I'm glad that you came. If you want to perform, make sure you go to the front desk and write down your name. If you're talented, but you're shy, you don't get up, well, goddamn it, that's a shame. But if you do get up and you show your thing and you get love, well, that'll be amazing. Or maybe extraordinary. Or maybe phenomenal. Make sure when you grab a microphone, you project. Not from your lungs, from your abdominal, from your diaphragm. What rhymes with diaphragm?
Hello. You're listening to Skies Crescent Radio, and I am your host, Dale Novella from the REC Life. Welcome to the Poet Podcast. Today we have a very intimate panel with us, two of my favorite guys, plus my favorite girl, Jade Sabrick, on the... I was going to say ones and twos. There aren't really ones and twos, but there's a board, and that's what she's on. And to my right, I have the guy that you just heard, an extraordinary lyricist and part-time comedian and coffee maker.
Yeah.
A coffee maker and
barista.
Manager. Yes.
I'm a barista.
And Mr. Baxter Wordsworth, how are you doing today?
Doing all right. You know, life, she's full of ebbs and flows. And I'm doing slightly better than melancholy, so I can't complain.
What? But you're wearing red. You can't be melancholy wearing red.
Yeah, you can.
It's a bright color.
But it tells people to stop.
Oh, that's
Whatever
true.
you were about to say, stop. It's also it's a Swiss flag.
It is a Swiss flag, so you need help. You're asking for the
Nah.
jersey.
I went to Switzerland once, and I liked the shirt, so I bought it.
Cool. Do you have anything exciting coming up?
The end of September will be September. The end of September will be the end of the week 17th? No, 18-year anniversary.
Oh shit!
Holy cannoli!
Y'all can vote.
I wish we had the
EOW
things
can vote.
to do some applause. Hold on, do we got applause? Nah, this is the scary one. Anyway, 18 years EOW's been going on. Thank you, Mikal. A couple of new chapters are opening up. One in Beijing. Another one, I think, someplace in Africa. I kind of forget where. But the EOW worldwide community is doing a lot of things and making a lot of moves. So that's amazing.
Nice.
Going to Paris at the end of October. That's going to be cool. Gracias. And going up to Montreal in the middle of September for their finals.
Oh,
They're
I want
gonna.
to go.
I mean, you guys can if you want.
Oh,
Montreal is not that
I've
far of
never
a
been to
drive.
Montreal.
Okay.
They
I mean,
speak
you might be
French.
able to go.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's around
See?
the 16th. I'll get the details. But yeah,
Yeah.
lots of
see.
EOW stuff going on. The Poet's returning this month. So that's something to be excited about.
Yay!
We took a month off. But yeah, normal, regular, schmegular.
Regular schmegular.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Hey. Wouldn't miss it and haven't.
Yeah. And to round out our intimate panel this evening is world traveler, hip hop scholar, manager of arts and social justice programming at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, championed lyricist, godfather of underground hip hop in New York City, McCalamine.
This
And
intro
the
gets
man
more
who put-
ridiculous every time.
The man who put a ring on it.
Yeah,
You did?
but that's true. That's actually very true.
Everything I
Yeah.
said was true. You're a legend in Germany.
You're like artist, educator, rapper, cure of cancer, AIDS, and HPVs. He built a solar dimensional bridge to Mars. He's the reason why we have sun. Like every intro's like some other stuff. Hi, baby.
Hi. What you got going on?
Honestly, on the creative tip, it's a little quiet for September.
Uh-huh.
Coming off Germany, I guess. Did we?
2 months ago.
No, it's a month ago.
Okay.
Beginning of the month.
Yeah, because I was doing my yogi stuff.
Mm-hmm. I forget if I had talked about it the last poet. Maybe I did.
I think so.
But yeah, that's nothing really going on in September. Everything for me is kind of in October, although I guess I can tease we're going to be doing a video shoot for one of the songs is going to be on the new album, The Passport.
Hey.
Yeah.
So-
And we're actually performing that song. When are we going to perform that song?
I think we're going to perform it at the Poet.
Oh shit! What date
I think
is
that's
the
September
Poet?
12th.
Hey,
September 12th. And what else
September
is
12th.
what else is the Poet going to be this month?
Oh, it's your birthday.
I don't know. It's the closest thing I can think of.
Is there a cat noise? We need a cat noise.
I'm a cat.
No, there's
Yeah.
not a cat
I'm
noise.
a
Although it's
cat.
very interesting. Fun fact, cats actually don't meow to each other or other animals.
Nope.
They only do it to their humans.
Right.
Because they're trying to mimic the humans. To
They're,
get their
manip-
attention.
they're manipulating us all
Yes.
the time. That's what they
Although
do.
ours yells at the insects it finds in our house.
Yeah.
So it sees flies and yeah. So yeah, this this month is back to school. So just doing a lot of stuff on the school tip and getting ready. Going to be in the studio, but yeah, nothing upcoming except for until October. So I'll let everybody know what's going on in October.
Nice.
Yeah.
Word.
Thank you for being here, McCalamine.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. So we just listened to a little clip from Baxter opening up The Poet Will Be Televised. This was a throwback from 2007. It was one of our last The Poet Will Be Televised at Funkadelic Studios, which is our gracious, ever so gracious sponsor of this program and of the PWBT.
I was like, the what?
Yeah.
Oh.
The Poet
That.
NYC. If you'd like, you can hashtag that. And Baxter asked a very interesting question towards the end of his half-written, half-freestyled performance.
Did I?
Yeah. It was, why does everyone always go to the back?
Oh, yeah. Where's
And
Rosa Parks?
Yeah, word to Rosa Parks. Like, why do we always go to the back? I remember being in like grade school and being at a predominantly black school, and the teachers would be like, "We fought so we won't have to sit in the back. Stop going to the back." And I was like, "Y'all are extra." But what is it about when you go to a concert and everyone kind of congregates on the wall or in the back? First, let's ask, how do we feel as performers? All of us are performers. So how does that make you feel when you're on the mic?
Wait, ask that question again.
When the audience is in the back, how do you feel as a performer? Seeing like the entire audience is away from the stage.
It's, you know, I feel like it's a trust thing. They don't trust you when they're in the back, because when people buy tickets and go to like shows where they know the artist, they want to be in the front. They're like, oh, Jay-Z's performing, front row. That's where I'm at. I know what I'm about to get. I know what he's about to do. But I think at like local shows and at places where people don't really know what's about to happen, they're like, all right, let me sit in the back and figure out whether this is going to be good or not. Like, you know? But, you know, people should be more courageous. Come to the front. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel
What about you?
it's similar. I mean, I totally agree with everything that. I mean, it is a lot like. In particular, I think in my experience, it's, you know, depending on the genre of music, and depending on the city, it's like better or worse. But yeah, a lot of it's like they don't know who or what you are. They may not be there for you. You kind of have to. You have to kind of make that bridge. So I guess for me, I don't, you know, kind of entering the second part, like my general feeling is always like, all right, so I got to do something to get you to the front. I don't take it personal.
Right.
You know, I feel like as a performer, as an artist, so we can be artists and love our work and be great with it and want to share it. But we also have to recognize like, what's personal for us isn't personal for other people. And you have to find that bridge to get them to see, you know, kind of what Bax was saying about that trust. Like, oh, word, he's speaking about, you know, what I'm feeling, or like, oh, wow, I can relate to that. I think sometimes artists, especially newer artists, they tend to waste a lot of energy trying to like almost scare people to the front. Right. And I feel like if you know you're dope and you have energy, you know, and that's the thing too, is like you have to bring magnetism. You can't expect them to just magically be like, oh, there's someone on stage, I'm just gonna come to the front. And I think sometimes people think that, but for me, I look at it as like, okay, this is my job. I'm here to entertain. I'm here to bring what I can to bring you in. You know, that's so. I don't really feel a ways about it. I think maybe when I was, you know, newer and doing stuff, I might have had some like, why isn't they feeling it, or what's going on?
You ever see like when the artist gets upset at the audience and they start like blaming the audience? It's like,
yes, I've
y'all
seen
are
it
whack.
times.
Like
Yeah.
like every other rap performance.
yo, I love
Yeah,
it.
rappers. I've noticed rappers do it a lot.
I love it when they tell the audience that they're whack. Y'all are whack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that's gonna win them over.
Yeah, rappers.
Yeah,
They're really hip hop. Sadly, it's
a
a black guy for sure. But it's interesting too, because like I've been other places, like in the world, and they're already open. Like they come in with this like, I'm here because I want to have fun.
Yeah.
And you can kind of get seduced by that a little bit.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like you don't. Now here's the kicker though, which people don't realize. Like they're with you, but if you're whack, they'll quickly not be with you.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting wave. They kind of give you the benefit of the doubt, but then it's like you got to keep them, which is almost harder than bringing them in sometimes.
Yeah, because it's harder to knowing someone has high expectations for you in general.
Yeah.
And then living up to the expectation.
Yeah.
Right. But also, like, we live in New York City. Like, we're spoiled when it comes to, like, live
really are,
shows.
Yeah.
It's like, you could go to 3 different live shows any given night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, the audience that you find in New York City is often, like, easily impressed. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, it's like, even if you, like, good, you still might have some people in the back, like, that's not what I came here for.
Yeah.
Or like I do that.
Right.
Yeah, and I
But
can do it
but
better.
when when you travel and go other places,
Yeah.
some places you go like this is their event for the month or the week or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yep.
So they are like, you're right. They are way more open to like being entertained and be like even I'm pretty sure Jade and you guys have done some busking. Like tourists are probably like always like about that because they don't see it every day.
Right.
But the motherfucker who like goes to work every day and
Shut up.
like you know what I'm saying like yo B I'm just trying to make it from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Which is just another obstacle to get over.
Right.
Like, because everybody wants to be entertained and everybody wants to have a good time. You just have to kind of like get them open to that idea. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
On the train, it might be a little bit harder.
Right. But you figure if you're in a club,
Right, yeah. You can't, like, you got out of your house and came here.
you paid money.
Right.
Yeah.
To be here.
Yeah.
You got dressed up, took a shower.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, did your hair.
So let's at
Yeah.
least try to have a
Yeah.
good time.
I used to work at a jazz club, and one night it was a holiday, and whenever it was a holiday, but it was a Sunday, and on this particular Sunday every year we would like scale down the size of the band. It was a big band that would play, and the entire audience, because it was a holiday, the entire audience was foreign. Like I think most of them were Japanese.
Yeah.
And for the most part, Japanese audiences, I think, especially with jazz performances, they kind of sit and watch and take it in, and then they clap at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were just kind of staring. And a lot of our tourists from Japan for that club would like fall asleep within like 30 minutes of the performance, probably just because they're like coming here straight from the airport, and it's just a long plane ride. So like halfway through. And big band performances tend to be like one song tends to be very long, right? So halfway through one song, the performer realizes that no one in the audience, like after his solo, is clapping.
Mm-hmm.
They're just kind of like staring at the stage, and he gets very upset, and he cuts the song early, and he walks off stage.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn. Like, I don't know what I would have done. I don't think I would have done that in this particular situation. I think I would have like kept performing and just kind of made it about me, and like, well, when I do a good job, I feel good afterward, whether someone else likes it or not. But if I enjoyed my performance and had fun, I won't care about the audience.
Right. And plus, he's
yeah.
getting paid to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very professional.
Yeah,
But I understand
it. It was
it.
really surprising. I understood it where he was coming from, and I also was like, because I saw that audience there, we had that particular demographic came in a lot. So we were kind of expecting them to fall asleep in the middle of the show.
Yeah.
So we, as the workers at the club, didn't really take offense to it, but
Right.
yeah.
It's hard not to internalize those things. Like, there's been times where, like, I've been rapping on the stage and look down at people, and they are just, like, unmoved in their facade. Like,
Yeah.
the way they're looking at me is just, like, whatever. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, with the most apathy. But then after the show, they'll come up to me and be like, yo, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life.
You know
I've
what?
had that a few times in Macau.
Yeah.
I've been like, damn, I'm like belting, and I thought I did a great job.
Meanwhile,
and everyone's
I'm in
just
the
staring
audience
at me.
being like, she's fucking dope. Oh my
Yeah.
God, her voice. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're just like staring at me because they weren't because I'm 5 foot tall and they weren't expecting me to have a big voice or
Right.
what. But like apparently they tell Macau's
Yeah.
crazy shit about
Yeah.
me all the time.
There was literally a time you performed at Pianos, and I told you this. That There's a story. She was doing a show at Pianos, and like it was literally like people were kind of quiet and whatever have you. But they were engaged, right? But they weren't really like super boisterous. This woman literally came up to me and was like, where's her album? I want to buy like all her albums, all of this stuff. And like Dale came off stage and was just like, I don't think anybody liked it. And I'm like, dude, this woman wants to manage you.
Right.
She's like bugging me. She's giving me her card. She's like, she literally was trying to take the CDs and like sell them in the crowd. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to tell
Yeah.
sometimes. You know?
But I'll say this. I actually don't mind when the crowd does the zombie stare. I think the thing that I have to fight through mentally is when you're in a show and everybody's got something else going on. Like, I'll be rapping
Right.
and people, not people in the back, but like people you can physically see, and like they're having a conversation.
Right.
They're doing other stuff.
Yeah.
That actually gets to me more than the zombie stare, because I kind of figure like, yeah, you don't know these songs. First time you've
Right.
heard me, you're taking it in.
But at least they're trying to pay attention,
Yeah.
right?
Right, yeah. So I don't necessarily get caught up. For me, the zombie stare thing doesn't really bother me. But when I'm in a club and like it's clear like y'all doing something else other than sort of trying to pay attention, that's when I have to kind of like get into a zone. It's like, okay, I'm here for me. And I've had the same conversation where like after the show, there'll be like 2-3 people like, yo, that was dope. Like, what's your Instagram? It's like, okay, so there's people that was feeling it. But it's weird when I'd actually prefer if you're looking at me just staring at me than if you're like, oh shit, you just sitting right in the front row and just having a conversation. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yo, one time at a show I was performing and there was like a beach ball that they were like bouncing around in the crowd. That was the most distracting. Also I was like high out of my mind, but there was also a beach ball, and it's like hard to rap when like you're watching people bounce this beach ball.
Wait, was that the show at Arlene's Grocery?
No.
Okay.
This was a show at Paper Box.
Oh, I thought there was a beach ball and like you have a bunch of performances with Radar on your YouTube.
Yeah.
I thought there was one in there.
Might have been, but that one wasn't as distracting as the one at Paper Box. I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to like bounce the beach ball too, but I had to remember that I was performing.
Yeah, and people, you couldn't like jump into the crowd because like people don't really mosh like that anymore, or people don't really like.
They need to, though.
We were just talking about this at Afropunk, but like they were just letting people fall at Afropunk.
That's wild.
People were,
people
like,
would stage dive.
Yeah, because people were just like on their phones.
My boy Chuck, because he's a punk head,
Yeah.
and he went to one of the stages where they were having like hard rock and
Yeah.
stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and he literally was like, "Yeah, people were trying to stage dive." And
Niggas
people
was-
were on their phones, and just like he said, literally the artists stopped the show for a second to tell the crowd, like, y'all need to get off your phones and pay attention. If somebody jumps off this stage, you're supposed to catch them. Do not let them just fall.
Yeah.
Yo, also if you,
Which is crazy.
if you have your
it's
phone,
extremely crazy.
if you feel safe enough to have your phone at like a hard rock show, then it's not the right show.
Yeah.
Like I remember at SOBs when ghetto, they used to do ghetto metal, and Game Rebellion used to like perform, and they used to like mosh or whatever.
I've heard that name in a long time.
Yeah, shout out to them though. I used to have to. I would put my phone behind the bar. Like, yo, I'm not risking this falling out of my pocket.
Yeah.
Somebody
Right.
like smashing into me and breaking the screen.
That's true.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, phones. Like the last time I'm Southern, so like I
Southern.
mean we didn't really mosh, but we got crunk, and like I don't ever like back then we didn't really bring our phones to the club like that.
Right.
It wasn't like I was in college when the first iPhone came out, and when smartphones really got big, so it wasn't really like. It wasn't a thing to like be party hopping and you're also snapping,
Right.
Snapchatting. Like it's not
Right. You didn't have to document your entire night for the gram.
right. Like everyone would see you. like I don't know. So we're gonna get into our next because I'm asking a bunch of questions. We're gonna listen to Fuge with questions versus answers.
Fuge.
Check. People don't like you if you're perfect. You gotta be the right amount of worth. Born and born, still searching, but still know who you are to a certain extent. Existence is a fine line of perfect balance. Things that confuse you make the most sense, but to show you that life isn't that complex. When scientists discover nano-organisms, solve real living things and they ain't stuff. If you could journey miles underneath the sea, you in the species human eyes have never seen. If you could fly a rocket high hyperspeed, pass by uncharted cosmos and galaxies, probably already know about the life that's staying planet. By the way, what really happened to NASA? I got more questions than I got answers. Got more questions than I got answers. Think quick, but the world moves faster. I got more questions than I got. Got more questions than I got answers. Got more questions than I got answers. For all the world trouble and disaster, I learned love is the answer. Check. They say cold is the absence of heat. Well, the world cold if it's absent of me. They say dark is the absence of light. Well, I bring balance to restore what's right. World looking wicked in the deal last week. Murder business kind of people why they worshiping. Funny how the cops fuck us on Facebook. Facebook only show us how crooked the cops bleed. Look how the kids, jangling kids, violate my trust, way to go bad. My Uncle Sam, my cousin Ray Ken, or whatever family thinking that the government is. Obama is my brother, but I do not understand. Born to miss the politics, I don't know what he did. Way too distracted by this neo racism. Blacks want to politics, we never gon' get on. Somebody keep rewriting history. Mr. Confederate, what are you preserving?
as a heathen. The modern prophecy no longer exists. And the internet compiled of an intellect. Along the we say to artificial intelligence, I, robot, am legend Will Smith. And the more predicted they a judgment. Why horoscopes so accurate? What are they hiding about the Egyptians? Is the rest of a real place with the T-Rex? Why you treat me like a farmer on the son of God? Cause we doing pound more than you need to know. If you don't trust current day policies, how you gonna trust our ancient theology? How you gonna be an internet activist? You ain't got the answers, you ain't got half of them. How you gonna be a spiritual advisor? And you a liar? How you know the power of love, but you still use the power to judge? How you let somebody tell you what God said? Listen inside you. Love is the answer. Put your L's up for love. Put your L's up for love. Yeah, look at all the love in this room right now, y'all. I go by the name of Fuchs. That's spelled F-Y-U-T-C-H. And I'm very blessed.
All right, that was Fuchs with questions versus answers. And in the song, Fuchs is talking about having more questions than answers in regards to social issues and world policies, world politics. Is this true? Do y'all feel like this too? And like, do y'all think it's on purpose?
I mean, I feel like there'll always be more questions than answers, right? If you have more answers than
Specifically with
questions,
social
then
issues.
that doesn't work out.
Specifically with social issues and world policies.
But like, you know, every question leads to 2 more questions and 3 more questions. Like, you know, I don't think there'll ever be a moment in time. Well, it depends on what you mean by like questions. Like questions like wondering why things are the way they are.
I mean, questions in general. I mean, because that's not the only question you can ask is about like social issues. Like, you could ask, okay, why is this the way it is? Or you can ask, how can we change it? Or you can ask, how was it before? Or you can, you know.
Right. I mean, I think yeah. So like every situation will pose questions, and like you know, more than one, obviously. So I think it doesn't have to be like that. Some questions get answered, and then other questions pop up. You know, technology takes us forward. The internet becomes a thing, and then now we have so many more questions about the internet. Is it you know?
But why do we have questions about the internet?
Because it's technology that like changes us culturally and socially. Like, you know, before we used to do a lot of our talking face to face, but now we're in a world where a lot of communications gets done digitally. So it's like there's questions of ethics, questions of responsibilities, questions of like, you know, people lose their jobs over tweets, you know, and it's like, is that right? Is that moral? You know, could I lose my job at a fucking being manager of a coffee shop over something I tweet? Like, you know, like, does one have anything to do with the other?
Okay. Do you think specifically like the impact that social media has had on our regular social life, do you think, or our professional life and world politics, do you think that that's on purpose? Do you think that's been orchestrated by by Shield or something?
There's actually, we just had an election where there was a UK data mining company that was paid by the Trump administration's campaign manager to essentially work with the Russian government. I'm probably getting the specific triangle wrong, but essentially companies are literally selling our information to people to manipulate it, to sell things back to us, or to provide places for us to congregate to direct misinformation to.
Right.
So the answer is yes. Now, this is what I hate about conspiracy people. There we go. Hello? There we go. That was a conspiracy theory.
They're trying to silence me.
They're trying to silence me. They know the truth about to come. The truth about to come.
And the mic cut.
No. So you know, people when they think conspiracy theory, they think like tin hat dudes in like dark robes with like pitchforks and torches and like a medieval castle.
With panic rooms.
Yeah, but the reality of it is this: power is something that people want to control, specifically political power, what I'm talking about, right? So they do things to manipulate the system and situations. COINTELPRO. There's nothing, there's no such thing as a conspiracy to me in those ways. We think about 9/11. We think about the Gulf War. We think about Yellow Cake. There's ways that people manipulate information to get a result they want when they ultimately want to utilize power. So absolutely, yes. I also would say this kind of to the larger thing. I feel like, similar to what Baxter was saying, I think that the evolution of us, of humans, of the world, the complexity of our lives means that there's always going to be questions. So yeah, when you introduce something completely new that no one's seen before, we still don't really know the full impact that the social media world and the digital media world has on our psyche, on our bodies, on our emotions. All that stuff is still kind of in real time being worked out.
We don't even know if Wi-Fi is like harmful to us or not. I saw this.
Definitely harmful for the ocean.
I saw Wi-Fi.
Yeah, because there are a bunch of like wires and stuff in the ocean.
But I saw this one report, and I read this on the internet. So full disclosure, it does need to be like, fact checked. But some kids in some European country did like a test where they were growing, might have been grass or some.
I think I saw this.
Right, and they grew one like far away from a Wi-Fi router, and they grew one like close to a Wi-Fi router. And the one that was close to the Wi-Fi router had trouble growing, like it was like stunted in some way, shape, or form. And the one far away, was fine. And actual scientists were like kind of excited about this because they were like, no one's ever kind of like done an experiment like this before. So this is kind of like raising so many more questions to ask, but that always, like, what are we going to do? Not have Wi-Fi?
I mean, now we're not. Now that we've experienced life with Wi-Fi and email and all that, we're not going to go back to not having Wi-Fi unless something catastrophic happens.
Well, and here's the flip side of it. We end up trying to figure out ways to make the thing that's unsafe safer once we realize it's unsafe. The problem is we do the process backwards. So we should have figured that out first before we did the thing.
But we get so excited about the technology.
Well, it's not even us. It's more like the people that make it. They're like
us too, though.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, sure.
They tell us like your cell phone is like the radiation from your cell phone could kill you, and we're all like, well, I'll take that chance. Like,
Maybe,
but you know what though? I think
for the Samsung 7.
Well, but you know what though? I think that's post though. I feel like we don't care because on the initial they don't tell you. They just introduce it, and then people start coming up with like, oh, there's just, and then people are like, well,
but there
do you
are
think
things
they even know? Because like when cars first came out, people were just like, oh, we can get around faster. They didn't think, oh, we should have seatbelts in this thing because they didn't have seatbelts in horse.
They figure
and
it out
buggies.
after the fact.
Yeah, they figured it out
but,
after.
But
the
there's
fact.
also things that where companies like realize like there's defaults and things, and they just still do it anyway, or they're like, you know what, this might be faulty, but we're just not going to say anything until something happens.
But also, I feel like human beings value convenience over like safety or even like health.
No, that's true.
And I think that's like obvious, right? Because like there's things we know. Like we know certain foods aren't good for us. We know like certain shit. Like, we know McDonald's isn't fucking real food, right? But have you been to a McDonald's lately? They are not hurting for business,
That's
you know?
true.
Over 1 trillion served.
Right. Cigarettes. People know for a fact that this is killing them, but they still. So, one, if you're already smoking cigarettes and you can't stop, I understand. But they get new customers.
Well, but you know what though? I guess, but you know what?
Customers.
That's true. But I also would say this: the one caveat to your two examples, I say is this though: the chemicals in those foods and the chemicals in those cigarettes make it difficult. But to your
new customers,
no, I hear you. But even with the food, and it's funny because I just had this conversation. Dale knows her. Ava, I'm going to invoke her name. She actually might be a future guest. Ava Kinsey. Ava Kinsey is the new associate director at BAM, and we talked about just in general how like the circumstances that people live in kind of predicate the decisions that they make
without a shadow of a doubt.
So even with information that they know may or may not, like this thing might be unhealthy or this thing might be the best thing, because of the choices that they have or the conditioning that they're in, it takes a monumental lift, and sometimes we don't always think about that because we're like, that this is going to happen or this is going to be a cause, but then we have to step back at a macro and go,
Well, right.
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
judge people
but-
for making those choices.
Yeah.
But but that's what I'm like. But human beings often value convenience over
Yeah.
the knowledge. So it's like,
Yeah.
I know McDonald's is like shitty food, but if
But
I'm
yeah.
hungry and I only have like $5 at like 3:00 in the
Get
morning and there's a
5
McDonald's open,
things from
right? You know what I'm saying?
McDonald's. I could get 10 apple pies
And
from McDonald's.
And it's because it's the same thing, like, with microwaves, and the same thing with cell phones, and the same thing, like, cars.
Yeah.
It's like, we know this shit is fucking up everything.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're like, but it's so convenient.
And they're so
McDonald's.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah. But this is why we're always going to have questions.
Yeah. It's like plastic.
Should we just accept that there will always be questions
it's-
that need answers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The questions is healthy.
Yeah.
I'd hate to live in a world with no questions.
Yeah, I mean, we're not perfect. Nothing's perfect, but the reality of it is, I guess what I would say is, Dale, there are some things that have answers, and we just need to answer them and be done with it. But that doesn't
Like the
preclude.
moon landing.
No, here we go. Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
Let's not go to the moon. We have it. No, I'm joking.
No, see. All right, listen. That's a whole nother conversation. That's an offline one. I'll tell you about that one. But we can never assume that because of the complexity of human existence and because of just like the nefarious nature of other individuals, that things will be introduced and or we will evolve that will create a new host of things that have to be figured out. But absolutely, like racism, we have an answer why it shouldn't be. Misogyny, rape culture, we have an answer. There's an
Right.
answer. There is no questions about that. Like, the answer is very clear, super simple. We don't need to keep asking more questions. Nothing to question about that. But when we're talking about, like, the fate of, like, what it means to be a public person on social media and what are the ramifications of that, or, like, how do we square up technology with how it affects the environment or affects our physical being when we actually run everything. Those are things that you're going to have to constantly be like, all right, well, we got to answer this question, but now this is a new question. So I think it's a mix. It's a
Right.
mix. Some things definitely like we're done with, and the fact that we're not done with it just more speaks to sort of like the lack
There's
of
another
character.
question.
what?
There's
Yeah.
another question. Why aren't we done with racism?
Right, exactly.
Why?
Or why white people feel comfortable saying the N-word, which leads us into
I got a
Ashley
question.
August.
I was gonna
And the
say.
gays.
I was like, I have a question for you. What's the next video? I was gonna segue.
You got to trust her. She was already on it.
No, I just wanted to jump I wanted to do a segue. I was gonna try to jump the segue. All right.
So like,
You're taking me back to Crown High
so like, no, I'm about to do the poem real quick. Right. So this is it right here, right? So like, I'm on this bus, right? I got on these stretchy little pair of shorts that make me look extra black girl murderous. Number jersey on my back, keeping tally of who be ending these bitches so fast on the court. I'm front row alone. Yellow busted under me like the throne that I rule on. Rusty rocketry crossed the freeway to the game. Girls smacking rap in the back with they parrot mouths. I got 99 problems, but that bitch ain't one. I'm like, who the fuck feel bad for me, son? All these white girls with J on their tongue. I could bet all my pop vinyls on them only knowing the chorus. When I asked them about verse 3, bar 7, wash their faces still to open jaw stone, be stripped of its color, well, little that they had anyway. See the blank keepers drop their hood counterparts and just be blank. When I ask them if they know they ain't from the same broken land Jay be talking about like I am. See, we speak gutter. And they only know gentrify and coffee shop scone and Prospect Park runs at dawn and we know Bodega Coin Coffee. Being named suspect, Paul pink slips as door stoppers, they continue. I'll let them live. I'll allow their breath to happen. Keep my distance from my so-called team. Pantomime my spike, my hit, my jump, but they just get louder. Dirty tongue tangle closer to the forbidden and I wait on it. I feel my blood burning in all my brown and I hear nigga. I rise and pivot. 3 of them sitting, 2 kneeling, but all laughing in my direction. And my face looks like the one time they said they should order me something fried or grape at our team dinner. Or the one time they said I'm the only one who doesn't have to worry about her hair going out of place during a game. Since it don't move, since it be stubborn just like my people. Or the one time they said I should pick up their after practice underwear from the locker room floor because, picking cotton was something I should have known real well. And one more time. The one with the whitest face says to my black Jesus nigga. And I hop up off my glorious stone and I charge for her like 1,000 slave ships will my name for saving. Coach hold me back and I suddenly look like the animal they've been seeing me as. Jaw ready for chew apart, for blood-stained teeth and white meat. Hunger girl's face all of a sudden got restraining order on it. Let's play a game called Guess What a Black Girl's Hiding Her Box Cutter. What up, though? Throw your hands. You want to tickle ignorance? Well, come on, bitch. Let me laugh for you. Like she ain't know the trigger word. Like she ain't know that word can bring Rosa from front seat Regal to back seat. I'ma fuck your shit up like it was an accident. A mistake. It was in the song, so I just said it. Coach and white girls grouped together like the only cloud in my dark kingdom. And Coach told me back like black boy in cuff and says, what just happened, 27? And I'll say my name. They all forgot my name.
All right, that was Ashley August with The Game. You can find her in all around the world spitting poetry.
So
and
dope.
shit. Yeah. So in Ashley's poem, it seems as though even after being passive in numerous racist confrontations with her teammates, her volleyball team, she finally snaps and becomes, quote unquote, the animal they see her as, or becomes a stereotypical angry black woman. So, and each one of us have these different identities that we, you know, I'm a black woman, I'm a black person, I'm a woman, I'm a heterosexual woman, I'm a heterosexual woman in a monogamous relationship. I have all these identities as a performer and things, and there are stereotypes that go along with each of these identities. Has being a stereotype ever helped you in a situation?
Wow. Has a stereotype helped
Yeah.
me? Yo, we need time, yo. I need to think about
We
that. You gotta
actually,
like I gotta go
Well,
like
You want to take 3 collective breaths? We can take 3 collective breaths, and you can.
I don't think being a stereotype has ever helped me.
Right. That's like
Okay.
that's like saying that's like if you were on the Titanic, right, and it was going down, and you. No, that's a bad example. That's like saying if I got shot and it helped me see the doctor quicker. Did being shot help me, like, you know, get, you know what I'm saying?
I'll say, you know what? I'll say
I have an
this. I have
example.
used my stereotype to my advantage.
Okay, so
That's
how
what
would
I'm
you do
saying.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that on a New York City subway train, there are some white people, i.e. many, that look at a black male and they are afraid. It has been very good for me when I feel like I do not want to have anybody close to me. I'm going to sit down because you're probably not going to sit next to me. I'm going to get a seat.
Especially if you get the 2-seater.
Yeah. I can actually like roll up and I know that there's a good chance that people are going to like, I don't want to sit next to him.
Same, but
Yeah.
like I get offended. I'm like, you know, the train get crowded. I'm in the 2-seater. Nobody sitting next to me. I'm like, yo,
Now, you know what? I used
the
to.
deal?
Real talk. I used to, and then I was like,
I almost
"Oh,
went
this
through it.
is dope," because I don't really want to deal with you people. So this is awesome. This is great. Like y'all leave me alone.
But
Awesome.
I will say this too. That's also a bit of a rationalization too, right? Because like the only 2 ways you could feel about it is offended or that. Like,
Sure.
you know, right?
Sure.
So it's like that's the better of the 2 ways to feel about it, I would think. But like I agree with Mikal that there definitely are situations where you can manipulate the situation to your advantage, being stereotyped, right? But like advantage is a loose term because like the stereotype in itself is a disadvantage. Like, you know, like if I get into an altercation with someone and I like, you know, they perceive me as being like an angry black guy, like maybe that like helps me get leverage in this altercation, right? But like the stereotype of the angry black guy has also like murdered people.
And still could potentially murder you in that
Right.
situation,
Yeah.
depending
Right.
on how it goes.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's like even advantage isn't an advantage, you know? It's like Asian people who get stereotyped for being like good at math or fucking smart or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll get a job off of that. But at the end of the day, like Asian people being stereotyped isn't like beneficial for them in the macro, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Yo, fuck stereotypes, Speed.
I can think of a good stereotype, which I'm going to use Jade as an example.
Uh-oh,
When we
careful.
bust together, Jade is Mexican American, or she's a Texican.
I'm just gonna
And,
pray.
Jade plays guitar, and when we bust together, she always starts off with like a little mariachi riff. Now, on the trains, mariachis are supposed to be loud. Like, that's the style of music. They're just loud. Now, sometimes when you're on the train and you hear a mariachi come on the train, you're just like, ugh. because it might be really early in the morning,
I'm
or it might
always
be right
excited.
after work. Yeah, you're always. Some people are always excited.
I'm like, yes.
So like all these people, I've noticed that sometimes all these people will like go, but then they'll already hear us, you know, and so it gets their attention because they're like, oh, mariachis, and then we start singing in something that they like, and then they give us money. So I felt like in that situation, her going on and doing a mariachi thing and being kind of like a stereotype. Okay, I'm a Texican with a guitar. I'm doing this mariachi riff.
Do you think they register though that she's like? Do you
They
think
might
they
not
look
be
and-
like automatically she's Mexican,
Oh,
but
okay.
like the riff and she's brown
Got it.
and like
But I don't.
like you can assume.
So, but I don't. I don't
Okay.
think that's.
Oh yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jade Zabrik.
Jade Zabrick.
Well, I do it on purpose just for that reason. Like,
Yeah.
I like that stereotype. I like how I come in all quiet and I just do the Latin stuff, and then I sing in perfect English.
Right.
And I impress everybody with how perfect my English is, and they have no idea that I don't speak Spanish.
Right.
Like, that's how I play the stereotype to myself. Like,
But this is my question. Do you think that technique would work for other people? Like if an Asian guy came and he started playing like a mariachi thing and then went in, and then sung.
Well, there are Asian Mexicans.
Well,
Like,
no.
I mean,
maybe
Wait,
no, but if he
Asian
does like
Mexican.
his own
Yeah, there
like
are
Asian music or like with that instrument that
Right.
they have, and
Yeah.
then
Right.
changed it up.
But I'm just saying, like, I think the shock and then the comfort, I think is a very smart tactic. But I think, like, I don't know if that's specific to the stereotype of your race. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think if you came in and you started playing an Indian tune and shit, people would still be like, "What the fuck?" And then you could go into, like, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that's
don't
exactly
know.
the same.
because I don't feel like you don't hear that enough on the subway. You know, you hear I probably hear a mariachi band like once a
Right,
week.
but then that's still not indicative of the stereotype. That's more indicative of people being familiar with mariachi bands and being like,
Yes.
another mariachi band. And they're like, oh shit, it's not a mariachi band.
Yeah.
But I still think, like I said, stereotypes can be manipulated to your personal advantage, but will always be to your larger disadvantage.
Okay. Have y'all ever been in a situation where y'all fell victim to a stereotype of any of your identities and it worked tragically against you? And maybe not the identity
Too many
that's most.
times to count.
Okay, so Mikhail, you're a hard example for me.
I got
like because
Why?
you're cis male, you're a black male. There are lots of like
I got
a lot of what you are is like obvious to the eye,
I
or
gotta-
is like
Oh, maybe I didn't
So,
understand
like,
your question.
Yeah. So like, is there any time where you were like you tried to play up a stereotype or take advantage of a stereotype and it worked against you?
Oh.
No, because I like kind of to back to the point. Like I don't really see stereotypes as like a
Ever
positive
good,
or
yeah.
ever good. It usually is always going to work against me.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, no. In every instance, and it's actually frustrating because the stereotypes of like a black male that I deal with ends up making me have to do like way more work to disprove that on like numerous levels because the
Like what
automatic
stereotypes.
like the assumption that I'm angry and that I'm gonna like flip a table or like if I have a problem with something, men, women, white, black, their assumption is that I'm gonna like pick up a chair and throw it across the room, or I'm gonna like puff up and like get in their face.
Right.
So it's just like
And just dunk on them with a basketball.
no,
What?
but it's
Where did that come from?
honestly it's very frustrating because I have actually been
And all
manipulated.
black men
Yeah,
play
I
basketball.
have actually been in work situations where that has been manipulated against me so that decisions that are made or like my ability to advocate for myself or others
Yeah.
is thwarted because me talking at 5, they took it as it's 12.
Right.
And they'll be on 11 and it's fine.
Right. So
But-
you're
right.
forced to make yourself smaller.
I am constantly making myself smaller in workspaces because the way that I'm treated is as if like I'm about to like rip the door open. And
Yep.
I know it has all to do with the fact that I'm a black straight male. And even though I'm not very tall, I have some size.
Right.
So the assumption is Mikhail's about to go, and it's like,
He's about to Hulk out.
yeah. And it's like, No, it's not even in
Yo,
like my
you know
character.
what's even like worse?
It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. It's
It's-
very difficult to deal with.
But you know what's even worse, or equally as frustrating, is like when you do disprove the stereotype, right? Like they see you as like not the stereotype, but then they feel like comfortable.
Punging you?
Well, no,
Or
no,
talking shit about people who
about the
do.
stereotype,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I've
like,
been there.
right, like there was a time I was at the coffee shop, and one of the customers was talking to me, and he was saying something about like these kids, and like they like sag their pants, and I'm like, oh well, I forgot how he framed it, but I was like, oh, you mean like me? And he was like, no, not like you, like you're different. I'm like, oh no, what you're describing is exactly me, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
like,
Yeah.
right.
Like let's.
I've been there with my hair when I had loose hair and I was I was a stock girl at like a Rainbow or something,
Yeah.
like one of those type shops. And the store manager is this country white woman. She would say problematic shit all the time. And one day, one of the other workers, I don't remember her position, came in with her natural hair out, and the manager complained to her and said, "You don't need to wear your hair like that anymore." Even though I wore my hair in a wash and go every day, and she would always compliment me, and she was like, "Well, you know," she tells me, not the other girl. "Well, you know, those other girls like the ends of their hair look all nappy, and yours looks nice." And I was like, "Wait, what? Why do you even feel comfortable
Hold
telling me
the
that?"
phone.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
and it's like, I'm sorry if
Yeah.
they're like their ends are broken off because of heat damage because they're trying to like conform to your standard of beauty.
Yeah.
And ironically, I've never heard women with naturally straight hair be criticized for their hair being nappy as
Or
fuck, 'cause they're-
oily.
or oily, even when their hair looks bad. Like
Right.
I've seen some white women who bleach the shit out of their hair, who flat iron it every day, and their hair is clearly dead, and no one tells them.
Right, and they'll-
"Bitch,
people just
you
like-
work in a restaurant.
People just
cut
like,
your
oh,
fucking
she's
hair."
having a bad hair day.
Yeah.
She's having a bad hair life.
Yeah, like you don't know how to do your hair, bitch.
Oh wow. I used to get a lot of that. I used to get what we're talking about more when I was younger, and it was really around the fact that, you know, according to some rule, I apparently speak intelligently or I speak properly.
Yeah.
You speak
Yeah.
so white.
Yeah.
Oh no, I
Well,
mean,
for black people,
no,
you
no,
speak
no.
white, and for
Literally-
white people, it's like you speak so you're so well.
well, this is what's
spoken.
crazy.
Sorry.
No, this is what's crazy about that. Like everything you're both saying, but what's bugged out to me is when I expect white people to do that. Like
Yeah.
I just like, yeah, that's what y'all do. That's who you are. And they'll get offended, but I'm like, but you're racist. That's what
Right.
that's what you do. You don't understand how to do anything else.
Like, and it's embedded in you. Like, I know
Yeah.
you're not trying to be racist.
Right, I
Yeah.
expect it.
But
right.
like that's our
I'm
society.
not
That's
condoning
how you
it,
were
but
taught to
yeah,
think.
it's kind of like I used to say this all the time about like a stupid dog theory. It's like you don't get mad at a dog for shitting on the floor because that's what a dog does. You're not
Yeah.
upset
Whoa.
with it. It's like that's what it does.
I get
if the
mad.
dog, okay, that's fair.
Dare you, dog.
That's you know what I mean. Like when your dog drinks out of the toilet bowl, you're not like, what are you doing? It's like that's what dogs do. That's
Right.
kind
I
of
get
how I
that.
see with white people and racism. Like that's what you,
That's-
which doesn't
That
condone.
was terrible.
Yeah, I don't
wasn't-
care. which doesn't condone it, but for me, because it's so constantly violent, if I don't expect it, that's when you end up getting hurt. Anyway, the point.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Like, when you kind of like let your guard down and like, oh well, this person isn't like like
Yeah.
that, and then that one moment comes where it's like you got a friend and like you think you guys are cool. It's like, oh, he's
Yeah.
like he's different, and then he gets mad at like another black person, and you see him call that other black person a nigga, and you're like, holy shit,
yeah.
it was there the whole
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But it's and I understand internalized racism, and I've had this conversation with some people recently. Like, I get it, internalized racism, we understand that, phenone, all of that stuff. This, that, and the third, double consonants, we get it all. But it always bugs me out. I remember having conversations with my grandmother, God rest her soul, and when I'd answer the phone, she'd be like, Mikey, you sound like a white person. Like, I thought you were white. It's like, you sound so nice, and I'm going, well,
So what does that say about black people?
Yeah,
so
and-
black
and
people
then-
don't speak
and then what are you
English
saying about the
well,
rest
and they
of
sound mean?
yeah, or whatever, like whatever those stereotypes. So it always bugged me out when I'd get that from other black people, and I'm like,
Right.
what in the world? Like, we got to change that. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Right, but that's the
Yeah.
same.
I grew up
Yeah.
in that.
in embedded racism that you're
Yeah.
talking about. Like,
Yeah.
that, and that's the thing about racism that's like so fucking devious that people don't get. Like, it's in all of us. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, there's
That's
even
our society. Yeah.
But I mean, there's even been times like when I used to work in retail stores or whatever, and like black people would come into the store. For a second, I would be like, and then I'd have to catch myself and be like,
Yeah.
you know, be like, yo, why am I paying attention to them more than these white people? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
like, I know these people. Like, you know,
Yeah.
if I saw myself come in the store, like, going off of stereotypes, I might think, you know, because I've been followed around stores my whole life. Today, like, to this very day, if I go in stores, motherfuckers follow me around.
Right.
I
You know
mean,
what I'm saying?
working in restaurants, I would always feel bad. It's like it's a really bad cycle with black customers because a lot of servers expect that you're not going to tip them well, so they can give you service.
Right, even
And
the black servers.
Yeah, even the black servers, and a lot of black customers come in and expect not to be treated well, so they have an attitude, so they're difficult, and it's like this horrible cycle. And
never-ending
if just
cycle.
if just one of those parties like out of the way to be different. Then sometimes it still doesn't change.
I will say this:
what
one of them
happens,
is
but,
being paid
I mean,
to do it.
One of them is getting paid to do it, and in my mind, like you should still be courteous to your table regardless.
Yeah.
And
Coming
I've
from the
seen
man in the industry. Thank you, Baxter.
Hey, listen,
But
that's the way I look
I
at
have
it.
seen it where like some servers were like, well, I didn't go by the stereotype, and I was nice to them. They still didn't give me shit, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Like, maybe they just didn't have it, brother.
Maybe, but I mean, the
I
last
overtip.
restaurant I know, yeah.
I overtip
You
because
feel
I'm so
obligated, yeah.
I'm so was insecure about that stereotype.
Honestly, real talks. I was walking with a friend of mine. Shout out to Joe Wheeler.
My minimum is 20%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Joe Wheeler, dope sister. So what I told you, baby, is what I go by. She was like, check this out. This was dope. So we were at a fruit stand, and it was. I'm not sure if the brother was from India or Middle Eastern,
Right.
but he basically, when we showed up, we're like, oh, we're looking for some fruit. I think we want some plums or some strawberries. This dude reaches in his pocket, takes vegetable clippers, clips a couple of grapes, has a spray bottle of water, washes them off, hands it to us. Everything that we said that we wanted, he gave us a sample of. And I was like, that's dope.
Word.
So at the end of it, Joe was like, see, this is what I'm talking about when it comes to money. She's like, I go where me and my money are appreciated.
Right.
And I feel like that is the general rule. I know it's a little on the side a little bit, but like to your point about the tipping thing, is like, yo, if you are gonna treat me like a customer, like you getting the money.
But yo,
Like, you're
but
getting
let
the money.
me ask you this, Mikal.
Yeah.
This is where the question comes in,
Questions.
right?
Yeah.
So what about if black or in this case we'll say black-owned businesses versus
Sure.
like not black-owned businesses, right?
Sure.
But if the black-owned businesses aren't as accommodating as the not black-owned businesses, but there is a cultural value in shopping black.
So here's the thing. If my bar is low, so I'm not expecting like the black-owned business in order to get for me to feel appreciated,
Right.
to do like 5,000 different
Right.
things. I just don't want to feel disrespected,
Right.
and I think that's just the baseline.
Like they don't
anywhere.
have to have the vegetable clippers, but they gotta wash the grapes.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Or at least
but
say
yeah,
thank you for shopping with us or something like that.
right. But yeah,
that-
they don't. The brother on the street, if his fruit is fresh,
Right.
Yeah.
and he says hi to me, I'm gonna shop with him just like I shop with that dude.
Yeah, 'cause
Right,
that,
right.
that was his little
appreciated.
right. So
But
yeah,
that
no.
brings up a good point. Like, it just popped in my head about I don't know if y'all pay a whole lot of attention to black beauty salons and black nail salons as opposed to ones that are owned and operated by Asian peoples. I mean, usually when you
big
see-
controversy
Yeah,
right
it is. But like just walking past, a lot of black-owned, Latina-owned salons are super clean, super prissy, super like the price is a little higher.
Yeah.
Like you get champagne with your manicure and stuff. And many times there's not a lot of people in them. And I always wonder about that because people always talk about wanting to support brown and black businesses and not. People always complain about Asian nail salons. It is a very big controversy in New York right now where there was violence that erupted in, I believe, a Korean nail salon a month ago.
Yeah.
But then you go to the Korean salon, it might be similar prices and it's not as clean or it doesn't seem as nice. And then you see all these people who might be arguing with their nail techs. And then it's like, well, why is this place packed? And like I think a lot of black owned businesses feel the pressure to seem like they're better.
Yo, you know what's crazy about that too? I'm gonna open a can of worms. I know this. First of all, I don't really have a lot to say about that because the times that I've been in the nail salon might have been about the same nails that I have on one hand. I hate the smell of nail salons too, but I find it interesting that like to me, I don't go to a barbershop often because I had an afro for many years. But like there's something that like feels familiar about going to like a black owned barbershop or a black barbershop where I'm like, all right, like I feel comfortable being in there.
Yeah.
Like the conversations that go on in there is kind of like cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? I've been to like a Dominican barbershop and the Dominicans will like they go the extra mile with the actual like haircut. They like bring out the razor, hot towel on the face, like all sort of shit. At the end of it, they'd be like $30. It's crazy. But I would prefer a black barbershop, right? Do women not feel like that about nail salons? Like in the nail salon, is there not like a sense of like
sisterhood?
Or not, I don't want to say sisterhood, but just like comfortability being around like black women.
I think with hair salons, yes, but not necessarily nail salons. I think people kind of get their nails done and it's like a low key spa for them,
right?
So that it's like if I come with my friends, that's one thing,
right.
But you don't like expect to start just talking with your nail tech,
right?
Like you come with your homegirl and y'all talk,
right? Yeah.
Can I just say, and I could be totally wrong because about the same amount of times that Baxter's been in a nail salon, I have. But I feel like to apply this general rule, I wonder about, and this more I think might speak to the question about the cultural relevance or importance. I feel like we often, black people, we make our choices based on economics. So if the nail salon, that's the Korean nail salon, is like $5 cheaper and closer, we'll take that, even if the quality of the black nail salon is better or it feels more comfortable, because I might not have $30 to go to the Dominican spot. I'm going to go to the spot that's maybe $20 because I need that extra 10. So I feel like it's one of economics, and it's a tough position to put a black business in from the standpoint of if they have to make the margins they have to make. But this is what's tough about kind of framing everything about, especially when the money ultimately is going in the same place. Like the black and the white own, it's not as if like there is like a federal, it's not like there's an African Federal Reserve.
Right.
The money is actually ultimately going back into the
our
whole
racist government.
The whole populace. And there's not a rule that says black-owned businesses are actually taking that business and like developing the community. They could be doing the same individualist, capitalist, selfish thing.
They could just be buying a BMW,
right? And pimping.
And
right?
Why can't I get a BMW?
Right.
Yeah.
So I almost want to say like, you should buy and you should spend your money where it's appreciated. One of those factors of appreciation can be it being of your culture. But everybody that has a business in your culture might not necessarily be on that.
Right.
So,
like black churches. Not every black church.
Oh, that's a whole nother. We could have a whole
Not
hour
every black church.
You got a couple cans in front of you,
about
brother.
that. Yeah.
You got a couple
I
cans.
have so much to say about black churches.
You got a bucket, bro.
But right now, I'm just going to be silent like Jeanette Berry in this next tune.
This is a true story. I look at you and see the first kiss that we shared. It was on a balcony away from anyone who cared. I didn't know that night that we'd be where we are. Me loving a mystified. You were silent, silent.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
It's hard.
87% of African Americans have identified to be connected to some religion. 79% of them say that religion is a huge aspect of their lives. Now, 83% of African Americans claim to be Christian, with about 45% of those claiming to be of the denomination of Baptist. The one following that is the one that I am. 17% of the population of African Americans who do claim to be Protestant are non-denominational. And I realize that being a Christian and talking about Christianity, particularly in spaces like this, it usually is always the same conversation. Why are you believing in the white man's religion? Stop doing your oppressive stuff, right? And as much as I may, want to fight that on a historical level, I can also say that I think it would be bad to only look at religion in that state for African Americans. It's important to also understand it and look at it from a historical and anthropologist context. It was the church that often provides some of the only political and social services to African Americans, everything from job listings to health care. It also would be a little almost impossible to understand the civil rights movement without the undertone of religious rhetoric that led it. And then, of course, it's not only our revolutionaries who would talk against white oppression, but black liberation theologists such as James Cone, and even more recently, Jeremiah Wright, who almost cost President Obama his election, right, for the things that he was willing to say from the pulpit. So understanding how this is a very paradoxical relationship of understanding that this is the idea of oppression, but also as an idea of resistance, totally made me understand why in 2015, in the summer, some scrawny kid named Dylan Roof decided to walk into a church to start a race war.
Fuck that guy.
Why not? Why not go to the place where African Americans have historically found refuge and historically found the roots to their resistance? Well, that's why if I ever saw Dylan Roof and I had a chance to talk to him either before or after he had his Burger King, I'd probably tell him, nice try, Dylan. But we still going to church. We still gonna claim this white man's religion once used to enslave us. We still gonna fill these white pews with this black plight. We still gonna hallelujah. Still gonna be a nigga. Still gonna come as we are in our Sunday's best casket ready. I said we still gonna be a nigga. We still gonna lift every voice and sing and lock our hands like chain links at benediction. Still gonna tithe our 10%. Still gonna Bible study. Still gonna communion. Still gonna shout and praise and tongue. I know why you chose here, Dylan. The church has always been a womb for black revolution, a breeding ground for resistance, the source of our faith, our hope, our tenacity, our strength. But Dylan, if bombing our basements couldn't stop us, if assassinating our leaders couldn't stop us, if burning crosses on our front lawns couldn't stop us, how could you, with spontaneous rage? Did you forget that we are children of God, Dylan? And who doesn't love unexpected trips home? Some nights try, Dylan, but we still going to church. We still gonna pray with these blood-stained Bibles, knowing that Jesus' words should be the only one stained in red. We still going to church, even if only in hopes that you find your healing. We still going to church, even if only to pray that God has mercy on your soul. We still going to church, even if only to learn how to forgive you. Even though our hearts are heavy, even though infirmities plague our souls, even though we are in need of rest, we still going to church. We still going to church. We still going to church. We still go.
All right. So we just heard from Jeanette Berry with Silent, and we heard from Stephen Willis with Dylan. And both of these selections kind of talk about tragedies that happen in their own lives. Maybe not personal tragedy as far as like Stephen Willis's poem. He was talking about the Charleston shooting that happened, I believe 2 years ago now, in downtown Charleston. A young white man from Columbia or from Lexington, South Carolina, drove 2 hours to a predominantly black church in downtown Charleston one of the oldest African American churches in the country, and killed the parishioners. That he waited to the end of Bible study to kill the parishioners who were attending that Bible study. And it was the purpose was to start a race war. Now, the members of this church, famously, like, I don't know how they did this or like attempted to do this, but they publicly forgave Dylan Roof for his actions and wanted to move forward in love. Now, Jeanette Berry's song is talking about a relationship that is failing and trying to make it work and asking the other person in the relationship to speak so that she knows what's going on so that they can figure it out. But how in our own lives, like, how do you get past tragedy? I'm trying to not make this so deep. I don't think you can.
Too late.
It's deep for me, yeah.
Too late.
But yeah, what do y'all think about moving on in love amidst the pain and silence from the other party?
First, nothing wrong with being deep. Two, we don't have enough time.
We don't. We have like 6 minutes.
We have like 6 minutes. I'll just say two things and leave it at that. Time. Things just need to have time to subside, to decompress. The swelling has to go down. And then finding a love for yourself. And I know it's more complicated than that, but we don't have a lot of time. But I mean, thinking about it, it's, the tragedy that I experienced in my life personally, with a divorce and being in a relationship that was both mentally and emotionally abusive towards me. It took me a long time to get to a point of feeling like I could trust and feeling like I could be open again and want to be open again. But there was something about like love that I didn't get rid of. But it took time. And I think that's the only way. Mm-hmm. That's not the only way. That's not the only way. That's just the way that I think. So,
what do you think about it, Baxter?
I think you just have to try. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of times in traumatic situations and tragic situations, it's very hard to even try to get past it or try to get over it or like make effort to do so. One, because sometimes like in cases of like losing someone, it feels like betraying them to try to get over it. Like, if somebody passes, it's crazy to tell somebody like, yo, try to get over it. Mm-hmm. But like on some level, like there has to come a point where like you actively try to go on with your life. Mm-hmm. Like, and same thing, with relationships and things like that. It's like a lot of times, a lot of people feel more comfortable sitting in their emotion, sitting in their hurt, sitting in their anger, sitting in their betrayal or whatever. And it's way more easier. No, shouldn't say it like that. Mm-hmm. It's more natural, I think, to sit in those emotions and it's like takes a lot of effort to like actually get the determination to like try to get by or to get over it or to move on with your life, I think.
Yeah, I think just trying. I grew up in a pretty liberal Episcopal church, which sounds crazy saying that, but a pretty liberal Episcopal church, and they were always telling us like you should strive to be Christ-like, but understand that you'll never reach it, but keep striving because that's what God wants you to do. They understand that you're imperfect. And trying for anything, especially forgiveness of yourself and for others that have hurt you, I think is important. And being okay with just trying and not like making the mark. Right. So we have about 2 minutes left before we go. Because I'm a yogi and I'm super deep and shit. I'd like to just go around the circle, and Jade, if you want to say something as well, you're free to. Just say something that we're thankful for Yeah, so I will start. I'm thankful for waking up this morning in a safe bed with someone I love, with food in the refrigerator, and for my voice and my cat, to have people I know love me. That's what I'm thankful for. Baxter?
Give me a minute. Let's go around.
Ditto on the safe bed and the cat. Thankful for my health. Thankful that I get to do the things that I get to do. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Namaste.
Hey, hi. Jade. I'm thankful for my life and the experiences that I've been given and the lessons that I've learned from them and being able to keep going. Yeah.
I'm thankful for opportunities to be better. That's it.
And I'm thankful for this panel. Thank y'all all. The divine light in me sees the divine light in you. Y'all have a great rest of your Sunday.
Peace.
That was a chill poet.